Welcome to my channel. Try to hear the latest story.
Standing in the church basement, wedding tuxedo torn, blood trickling from my split lip, I stared at my sister Amanda screaming at my bride Sarah through the bathroom door. 3 hours before the ceremony, Amanda had just announced she was pregnant with Sarah's ex-boyfriend's baby and demanded to walk down the aisle first as the real bride, since she was actually starting a family. The wedding coordinator was crying guests were arriving, and I realized my sister's 5 broken engagements weren't accidents. They were practice runs. The metallic taste of blood in my mouth brought everything into sharp focus. How had I been so blind? Amanda stood there, in her emerald bridesmaid dress, hands on her hips acting like the victim, while my world crumbled around me. But suddenly pieces of a puzzle I never knew existed started clicking together. 5 engagements. 5 different men over 8 years. I'd always felt sorry for Amanda, thinking she just had terrible luck with relationships. Now, watching her calculated performance, I understood something far more sinister had been happening. Marcus was her first fiancé back in college. Star quarterback, decent guy, everyone loved him. Amanda claimed he cheated with 3 different sorority girls during spring break. The evidence seemed overwhelming back then. Photos, text messages, witness accounts. Marcus tried to defend himself, swearing he'd never been unfaithful, but Amanda's proof was ironclad. The engagement ended. Marcus transferred schools, and our family rallied around Amanda's broken heart. Except now, I remembered something strange. The night before, Amanda confronted Marcus about the alleged cheating. I'd seen his phone buzzing non-stop with confused text messages. Things like, "What are you talking about?" And, "I never said that," and, "Who told you I was interested?" I dismissed it as drama between college kids. But what if Marcus had been telling the truth all along? Then came Tyler, the law student. Amanda dated him for 2 years, and he seemed perfect for her. Ambitious kind, treated her like a queen. They got engaged during his final semester. But Amanda started complaining that Tyler was controlling, that he monitored her phone, that he didn't trust her around other men. She showed us screenshots of his supposedly possessive messages. The engagement crumbled when Amanda claimed she couldn't handle his jealousy anymore. But I remembered Tyler's confusion during their breakup. He kept insisting he'd never sent those messages, that someone must have hacked his phone. We all thought he was lying to save face. Now I wondered if Amanda had somehow fabricated those conversations. James, the veterinarian, came next. Sweet guy who rescued abandoned animals in his spare time. Amanda's 3rd engagement lasted 8 months before she claimed he'd pushed her during an argument. She had bruises on her arms as proof. James vehemently denied ever laying a hand on her, but what were we supposed to believe? Our sister's tears and visible injuries, or some guy's denials? The 4th engagement was Derek, a successful restaurant owner. Amanda said he was financially irresponsible, spending money on his business while neglecting their future together. She showed us bank statements proving he was bleeding cash. The engagement ended when Amanda discovered he'd supposedly taken out loans without telling her. Derek tried to explain that his business required investment for growth, but the numbers Amanda presented painted him as reckless. Finally, there was Ryan, the high school teacher, the most recent casualty just 8 months ago. Amanda claimed he had commitment issues, that he'd been secretly dating other women through online apps. She'd found messages on his phone from multiple women. Ryan seemed genuinely bewildered by the accusations, insisting he'd never used dating apps while engaged. But again, Amanda had evidence. 5 men. 5 different reasons for broken engagements. All of them completely different problems. But now, standing in this church basement watching Amanda orchestrate another emotional disaster, I saw the common thread. It wasn't bad luck. It was sabotage. My phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. Saw the wedding announcement online. We need to talk urgently. Amanda isn't who you think she is. This is Marcus. I glanced at Amanda, who was still berating Sarah through the locked bathroom door, demanding she come out and face the truth about her pregnancy. Sarah's muffled sobs echoed through the wooden barrier, while wedding guests' voices grew louder upstairs. But something else hit me like a freight train. Amanda hadn't just destroyed her own relationships. She'd been systematically undermining other family connections, too. Our cousin Jenny's marriage had fallen apart 2 years ago after Amanda told Jenny's husband about a lunch Jenny had with her college ex-boyfriend. Amanda claimed she was protecting the marriage by being honest, but the revelation created suspicion that eventually destroyed their trust. Jenny and her husband divorced within 6 months. Our brother Michael stopped dating entirely after a string of relationships ended badly. Each time the women complained that Michael was unreliable or dishonest. But I remembered Amanda having private conversations with each of Michael's girlfriends, offering sisterly advice and sharing concerns about his character. Michael became convinced he was somehow fundamentally flawed in relationships. Even our parents' marriage had grown strained over the past few years. Amanda constantly reported their arguments to extended family members, painting their normal marital disagreements as serious problems. She'd call our aunts and uncles with updates about Dad's supposed drinking problem or Mom's alleged spending issues. Our parents found themselves defending their marriage to relatives who'd received secondhand information about conflicts that Amanda had exaggerated or completely fabricated. The pattern was clear now. Amanda didn't just destroy her own relationships, she destroyed everyone's relationships. But why? My phone buzzed again. This time it was a number I recognized. Tyler, the law student. Bradley, I know this is your wedding day, but I need to tell you something about Amanda. She's not who your family thinks she is. Can you meet me after the ceremony? It's important. I looked at Amanda, who had moved on from yelling at Sarah to comforting Derek, the supposed father of her child. Derek stood there looking uncomfortable, avoiding eye contact with me. Something about his body language seemed off. He wasn't acting like a man dealing with an unexpected pregnancy and family crisis. He was acting like someone playing a role badly. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. Instead of trying to salvage this disaster of a wedding day, I was going to figure out exactly what my sister had been doing to the people I cared about. And I was going to stop her. 20 minutes later, I stood in the church parking lot next to Marcus's pickup truck, still wearing my torn tuxedo. He looked older, more serious than the college quarterback I remembered. His weathered hands gripped a manila folder thick with papers. I've been waiting 8 years to have this conversation. Marcus said, his voice steady, but filled with pain. I never cheated on Amanda, not once. But by the time I figured out what she'd really done, everyone had already chosen sides. He opened the folder and pulled out printed screenshots. These are the photos Amanda used as evidence of my supposed affairs. Look at the metadata. He pointed to tiny timestamps in the corners. These pictures were taken at my cousin's bachelor party in Vegas. Amanda wasn't even there, but somehow she got copies and cropped out everyone else to make it look like I was with random women. The photos showed Marcus with his arm around different women, laughing and drinking. Out of context, they looked incriminating. But Marcus pulled out the original uncropped versions, showing groups of people wearing matching bachelor party shirts with his cousin's name printed on them. She demanded $5,000 to keep quiet about these fake affairs, Marcus continued. Said if I didn't pay, she'd send them to my parents, my professors, everyone. I was 21 and terrified. I paid her thinking it would end there, but she kept asking for more money every few months. I felt sick. Why didn't you tell anyone? Who would believe me? Your whole family saw those photos. Amanda was crying, heartbroken, the perfect victim. And I was just some guy who supposedly broke your sister's heart. Marcus shook his head. I transferred schools to get away from the whole situation. Changed my major, started over completely. My phone rang. Tyler, I put him on speaker. Marcus found you, Tyler said without preamble. Good. Bradley, I need you to come to Amanda's apartment. She's at work, and I still have the key from when I helped her move last year. There's something you need to see. 30 minutes later, I stood in Amanda's living room while Tyler searched through her bedroom closet. Marcus kept watch by the window. The apartment was immaculately decorated, expensive furniture and artwork that seemed beyond what Amanda could afford on her administrative assistant salary. Found it, Tyler called from the bedroom. He emerged holding a small black device. Digital voice recorder. Professional grade. I found it hidden behind her headboard when I was moving her furniture. He plugged the device into Amanda's laptop and pulled up dozens of audio files organized by name and date. The folders were labeled with names I recognized: Bradley and Sarah wedding plans, mom and dad private conversations, Michael dating updates, Jenny marriage problems. She's been recording everyone. Tyler explained, his hands shaking slightly as he clicked through the files. Private conversations, phone calls, family dinners, everything. He played a file labeled Sarah's Insecurities, Use for Wedding Day. Sarah's voice filled the room, talking to one of her bridesmaids about her fear that I might leave her like her ex-boyfriend Derek had. She mentioned feeling not good enough, sometimes worried that I was settling for her. Then Amanda's voice came through, clearly recorded later. Perfect. Sarah's biggest fear is abandonment. If Derek shows up claiming to want her back, especially with a baby involved, she'll panic. Bradley will see her falling apart and question if she's really ready for marriage. This is exactly what I need. My blood ran cold. Tyler clicked another file. This one is from your parents' anniversary dinner last month, he said. My father's voice. Sometimes I wonder if we spoiled Amanda too much. She expects everything to be perfect all the time. My mother, she just hasn't found the right person yet. Maybe she's too picky. Amanda's voice again, recorded separately. They think I'm picky and spoiled. I can use this. If I tell Bradley they don't think he deserves a big wedding, it'll create tension, make him feel like he has to prove himself. There were dozens more. Amanda had been systematically recording private moments and using them to manipulate situations months later. She knew everyone's fears, insecurities, and private thoughts. No wonder her sabotage was so effective. How long has she been doing this? I asked. Tyler pulled up the file properties. The oldest recording is from 4 years ago, right after her engagement to James ended. Marcus leaned over the laptop. She started this after she realized she could make money from blackmail. I wasn't her first victim, Bradley. I was her practice run. Tyler clicked on a folder labeled Financial Records. Inside were bank statements showing regular deposits from different men's accounts. Payments labeled as loans or gifts, but clearly something else entirely. She's been systematically extracting money from her ex-fiancés, Tyler said. Look at these amounts. $2,000 from James, $3,500 from Derek, $1,500 from Ryan, all within the past 2 years. What was she using the money for? I asked. Tyler pulled up another folder labeled Gambling Accounts. Screenshots showed online betting activity totaling nearly $40,000 in losses over 18 months. Amanda had developed a serious gambling addiction and was using manipulation and blackmail to fund it. She threatened to release private recordings if we didn't pay, Tyler explained. Intimate conversations, embarrassing moments, things that could damage our careers or relationships with family. We all paid because we didn't know about the others. My phone buzzed with a text from Derek. Can we talk privately? There's something about the pregnancy I need to tell you. I stared at the message, then at the evidence spread across Amanda's coffee table. My sister wasn't just a woman with bad luck in love. She was running a sophisticated con operation targeting the men in her life, using technology and emotional manipulation to extract money and control. But the pregnancy announcement suggested something even bigger was happening. If Amanda was working with Derek to sabotage my wedding, this wasn't just about past relationships anymore. This was about destroying my future. I looked at Marcus and Tyler, two men whose lives my sister had nearly ruined. I need you both to help me figure out exactly what she's planning, because I have a feeling what happened at the church today was just the beginning. Tyler clicked on one final folder labeled Sarah's Weakness. Inside was a detailed plan written in Amanda's handwriting outlining exactly how to destroy my relationship using Sarah's recorded insecurities. The plan ended with a chilling note. Once Bradley sees Sarah can't handle family pressure, he'll realize she's not strong enough for marriage. Derek can comfort her while she's vulnerable. Everyone wins except Bradley and Sarah. I realized my sister hadn't just been ruining her own relationships for money. She'd been practicing for something much bigger, and my wedding day was her masterpiece. Derek agreed to meet me at a diner 15 miles outside town. When I arrived, he was already sitting in a corner booth, nervously shredding napkins. His usually confident demeanor was completely gone. He looked like a man drowning in guilt. "I never meant for it to go this far," he said before I'd even sat down. "Amanda approached me 3 months ago after she saw your engagement announcement on Facebook. She said Sarah had called her crying about missing me, that Sarah was having second thoughts about marrying you." I kept my expression neutral, though my stomach was churning. "Keep talking." Amanda showed me text messages supposedly from Sarah saying she wished she'd fought harder for our relationship. She convinced me that Sarah was trapped in an engagement she didn't really want, that you were pressuring her into marriage. Derek's hands shook as he reached for his coffee. I still had feelings for Sarah, so I believed what I wanted to believe. "What exactly did Amanda ask you to do?" Derek looked ashamed. "At first, just small things. Send anonymous flowers to Sarah's office with notes referencing private jokes we used to share. Call her work number and hang up just to remind her I was thinking about her. Amanda said it would help Sarah remember what real love felt like. The manipulation was brilliant. Amanda had used Derek's lingering feelings for Sarah while making him think he was rescuing her from an unwanted marriage. But then Amanda said Sarah needed a bigger wake-up call." Derek continued. "She suggested I should try to win Sarah back publicly, show her I was willing to fight for her. Amanda said if I could prove I was ready for commitment, now Sarah would realize she was settling for you." That's when the pregnancy plan started. Derek nodded miserably. "Amanda said if I could show Sarah I was ready to be a father, ready for real responsibility, she'd see I'd changed from the guy who broke up with her. Amanda volunteered to pretend to be pregnant with my baby, then dramatically reveal at your wedding that she was giving up her chance at love so Sarah could have what she really wanted." It was sickening how well Amanda understood human psychology. She'd turned Derek into an unknowing accomplice by appealing to his ego and his genuine regret about losing Sarah. "How did you fake the pregnancy?" "Amanda handled everything," Derek admitted. "She scheduled doctor appointments using a fake name and my insurance information. She said she'd done it before for other situations. She got ultrasound images, somehow created fake medical records. I thought she was just being thorough about the lie." "What do you mean she'd done it before?" Derek hesitated. "She mentioned she'd helped friends fake pregnancies to win back ex-boyfriends. Said it was surprisingly easy if you knew the right people. But I was so focused on Sarah that I didn't ask details." A chill ran down my spine. How many other lives had Amanda destroyed using fake pregnancies and medical fraud? Derek pulled out his phone and showed me text messages from Amanda over the past few weeks. The messages revealed the true scope of their conspiracy. Amanda had been feeding Derek intimate details about Sarah's daily routine, her therapy appointments, her conversations with friends. Information only Amanda could have accessed through her recordings. She told me exactly when Sarah would be most vulnerable, Derek explained. Amanda said Sarah's therapist was helping her work through commitment issues, and that Sarah had admitted to having doubts about marriage in general. Amanda gave me scripts for what to say if I ran into Sarah randomly. "Did you ever actually run into Sarah randomly?" "No, but Amanda arranged several near misses, She'd tell me where Sarah was going to be, then suggest I show up there coincidentally. A few times I saw Sarah at places Amanda predicted, but I chickened out of approaching her. Now I realize Amanda was tracking Sarah's movements somehow. The picture was becoming clearer. Amanda had been running surveillance on my fiancé, gathering intelligence, and coordinating Derek's emotional manipulation campaign. This wasn't a spur-of-the-moment wedding day disruption. This was a carefully planned operation that had been building for months. What were you supposed to do after the pregnancy announcement? Derek showed me more text messages from Amanda. After you and Sarah broke up from the stress, I was supposed to comfort Sarah while she was heartbroken. Amanda said Sarah would be vulnerable and grateful for someone who understood her pain. She predicted that within 6 months, Sarah and I would be back together and Amanda would quietly miscarry, so the baby wouldn't be an ongoing complication. And you believed this would work? Amanda showed me recordings, Derek said quietly. My blood turned to ice. What recordings? Private conversations between you and Sarah. Arguments you'd had about wedding planning, moments when Sarah expressed doubts about big life changes. Amanda convinced me that Sarah was only marrying you because she was afraid of being alone, not because she truly loved you. Derek pulled out his phone again and played an audio file. My own voice filled the diner talking to Sarah about postponing our honeymoon because of work commitments. Sarah sounded disappointed, saying she sometimes felt like work was more important to me than our relationship. The recording ended with Sarah saying she wondered if we were really compatible long-term. That conversation happened 6 months ago during a stressful week, I said through gritted teeth. We worked through those issues, but Amanda edited out the part where we resolved everything and apologized to each other. She had dozens of recordings like that, Derek said. Conversations that sounded like proof that your relationship was falling apart. She convinced me I'd be saving Sarah from a marriage that would make her miserable. I realized Amanda had weaponized normal relationship challenges that every couple faces. By recording private moments and removing context, she'd created a false narrative that manipulated Derek into believing he was performing a rescue instead of participating in sabotage. Derek, there's something else. Amanda owes massive gambling debts. She's been blackmailing her ex-fiancés for money. This isn't about love or helping anyone. She's using you to destroy my relationship while planning to extort money from both of us afterward. Derek's face went pale. She said she needed $5,000 to cover medical expenses for the fake pregnancy. I already gave it to her last week. She's been planning to disappear with your money once Sarah and I break up. You're not her partner in this scheme. You're another victim. Derek stared at his hands, the full reality of his situation finally sinking in. What happens now? Now we make sure Amanda doesn't destroy anyone else's life, I said, pulling out my phone to call Tyler and Marcus. But first, I need you to help me understand exactly how far this conspiracy goes, because I have a feeling the fake pregnancy and wedding day sabotage are just the beginning of what Amanda has planned. Derek nodded slowly, then pulled out a room key from the motel where he'd been staying. Amanda's been meeting me there twice a week to plan everything. Her room is next to mine. She's been keeping detailed notes about all of you. Schedules, weaknesses, financial information. Bradley, I think she's been planning something much bigger than just breaking up your wedding. As we left the diner together, I realized my sister hadn't just been running cons on her ex-fiancés. She'd been building a comprehensive intelligence operation on my entire family, and my wedding day was meant to be the beginning of something much more devastating than I'd imagined. The motel was a run-down place off Highway 36, the kind of establishment that rented rooms by the hour and didn't ask questions. Derek led me to room 112, his hands trembling as he turned the key. Amanda's been staying in 114 whenever she needs privacy for her planning, he explained. She said her apartment wasn't secure enough for sensitive conversations. The room was a time capsule from the 1980s with faded floral wallpaper and furniture that had seen better decades. But spread across the desk and dresser was the most sophisticated surveillance operation I'd ever seen outside of a movie. Detailed schedules for my entire family covered one wall. Sarah's work routine, therapy appointments, and even her grocery shopping patterns were mapped out by day and time. My parents' social activities, Michael's work schedule, even our cousin Jenny's custody arrangement with her ex-husband. Amanda had been tracking all of us like a military operation. But the most disturbing discovery was a laptop computer filled with video files. Derek clicked through folders labeled with different family members' names. "She's been recording video calls," he said quietly. "Look at this." The screen showed Sarah's face during what appeared to be a video chat with her maid of honor. But something was wrong with the image quality. It looked too perfect, too polished. "Amanda's friend from college is some kind of computer expert," Derek explained. "He's been helping her create fake videos using artificial intelligence. They take real audio recordings of Sarah talking, then make it look like she's saying different things." He played a video that showed Sarah supposedly talking to Derek through a video call, expressing regret about our engagement and asking if they could meet secretly. But I recognized the backdrop. It was from a video call Sarah had with her sister last month about bridesmaid dress fittings. Someone had replaced her sister with Derek and changed the audio completely. "How many of these fake videos are there?" Derek clicked through more files. Dozens of fabricated video calls and text message conversations, all designed to show Sarah expressing doubts about our marriage or interest in reconnecting with Derek. The technology was so sophisticated that even I might have believed them if I didn't know they were fake. Amanda's plan for today was to drug the wedding cake with anxiety medication. Derek said, opening a small prescription bottle. Nothing dangerous, just enough to make everyone confused and emotional during the reception. Then she was going to play these fake videos on the reception hall's projection system. The medication was prescribed to our grandmother for severe anxiety, but the label had been carefully altered to hide the patient information. "Amanda convinced your grandmother to give her leftover pills, claiming she was having panic attacks about her upcoming pregnancy announcement," Derek continued. "She ground them up and mixed them into the cake frosting this morning." I felt sick imagining our entire wedding party and elderly relatives unknowingly consuming anxiety medication. Amanda had been willing to drug dozens of innocent people to create chaos for her scheme. Derek showed me Amanda's detailed timeline for the day. The pregnancy announcement was scheduled for exactly 3 hours before the ceremony to maximize emotional impact. During the resulting confusion, Amanda planned to plant Derek's jacket in Sarah's bridal suite, along with fake romantic notes, supposedly from their recent secret meetings. She wrote the notes herself, copying Derek's handwriting from old birthday cards, Derek explained. The plan was for someone to find them during the chaos and show them to Bradley's family as proof that Sarah was cheating. But the most sinister part of Amanda's plan was the technology component. Her college friend Robert was supposed to arrive during the reception with a laptop ready to display the fake videos. Amanda had convinced several family members to stay for an important announcement after dinner, planning to reveal Sarah's supposed infidelity to the largest possible audience. She wanted to destroy Sarah's reputation completely, Derek said. Not just break up your marriage, but make sure Sarah could never be happy with anyone else either. Amanda said if Sarah was going to reject Derek, then Sarah didn't deserve happiness at all. My phone buzzed with an urgent text from Tyler. "Amanda just left work early. She's heading back to the church. You need to get there now." We raced back to the wedding venue, arriving just as Amanda was entering the kitchen area with a large decorative bag. Through the window, I could see her approaching the 3-tier wedding cake Sarah and I had spent weeks planning. I quietly entered through the side door and positioned myself where I could record video on my phone. Amanda was carefully scraping frosting from sections of the cake and replacing it with new frosting from containers in her bag. The contaminated frosting that contained ground-up anxiety medication. She worked methodically, ensuring the drugged frosting was spread across portions of the cake where the most people would eat. Then she disposed of the evidence in the church dumpster and returned to playing the concerned sister role. But as I watched Amanda's calculated movements, I realized something that made my blood run cold. She wasn't just trying to sabotage one wedding day. She was practicing techniques she could use on other families, other victims. This was a business model for her, and we were the prototype for much larger schemes. 20 minutes later, guests began arriving for what they thought would be a normal wedding ceremony. Amanda positioned herself near the entrance, greeting family members with perfect emotional manipulation. She appeared stressed and overwhelmed, setting up her pregnancy announcement to seem spontaneous rather than calculated. I saw Robert, Amanda's tech expert, setting up equipment in the reception area under the guise of adjusting the sound system for dinner music. He was preparing to broadcast the fake videos to our entire extended family. Sarah emerged from the bridal suite, radiant in her wedding dress, but clearly sensing something was wrong with the family dynamics. Amanda immediately approached her, playing the supportive sister role, while actually gathering final intelligence about Sarah's emotional state. "Are you nervous about today?" Amanda asked Sarah, her voice filled with fake concern. "I know how overwhelming big life changes can be. Sometimes our fears about commitment are actually our intuition trying to protect us." I realized Amanda was conducting a final psychological assessment, looking for any signs of doubt she could exploit when she dropped her bombshell announcement. That's when I made the decision that would change everything. Instead of trying to quietly handle this family crisis in private, I was going to expose Amanda's entire operation in front of every person she'd tried to manipulate. She wanted to destroy lives publicly. I was going to give her the public reckoning she deserved. As wedding guests filled the church sanctuary and Amanda prepared to announce her fake pregnancy, I signaled Marcus and Tyler, who had positioned themselves near the church's audio-visual controls. We had 45 minutes until the scheduled ceremony time. It was time to turn Amanda's own weapons against her. I stood at the front of the church sanctuary, still wearing my torn tuxedo, and asked for everyone's attention. The confused murmur of 53 wedding guests gradually died down as I connected my phone to the church's sound system. Before we begin what was supposed to be my wedding ceremony, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the speakers, "There's something everyone needs to understand about what's really been happening in our family." Amanda, who had positioned herself near the back doors for her dramatic pregnancy announcement, suddenly looked panicked. She started moving toward me, clearly intending to interrupt, but Marcus and Tyler blocked her path. "My sister Amanda has something important to tell everyone about pregnancy and family loyalty," I continued. "But first, I think you should hear how she's been preparing for this moment." I played the recording of Amanda and Derek planning the sabotage at the motel. Amanda's voice filled the church as she outlined her strategy for drugging the wedding cake and framing Sarah for infidelity using fake videos. The guests' faces showed shock, confusion, and growing anger as they realized they'd been manipulated. Several family members turned to stare at Amanda, who was frantically whispering to Derek near the back of the church. "The pregnancy Amanda is about to announce is completely fabricated," I explained, holding up the fake ultrasound images Derek had given me. "These medical records belong to Derek's cousin in Phoenix. Amanda and Derek have been collaborating for months to destroy my relationship with Sarah." I showed the timestamps on the ultrasound images, which clearly indicated they were from a different patient in a different state. Several of our relatives who worked in healthcare immediately recognized the inconsistencies in the medical documentation. Derek, faced with overwhelming evidence, and the stares of 53 people, finally broke down. "I'm sorry," he said, his voice cracking. "Amanda convinced me that Sarah didn't really want to marry Bradley, that I'd be saving her from an unhappy marriage. She showed me recordings that made it sound like Sarah was having serious doubts." "What recordings?" asked Sarah's father, his voice filled with protective anger. I played several of Amanda's edited audio files then explained how she'd removed context to make normal relationship conversations sound like evidence of fundamental problems. The difference between the edited versions and the full conversations was stark and obvious. Amanda tried to defend herself. "I was protecting this family," she said desperately. "Bradley, you don't understand Sarah like I do. She's not ready for marriage. I have proof." "You mean these fake videos?" Tyler asked, connecting Robert's laptop to the church's projection system. On the large screen at the front of the sanctuary, we showed the artificially generated videos of Sarah supposedly expressing interest in Derek. But Tyler had also prepared side-by-side comparisons with the original footage, making it clear how the fake videos had been constructed. Robert, Amanda's tech collaborator, stood up from the back row. "I need to say something," he announced, his voice shaking. "I've been documenting everything Amanda asked me to do because I knew it was wrong. I contacted the FBI 3 weeks ago." The sanctuary fell completely silent. "Amanda's schemes involve wire fraud, identity theft, and extortion across state lines," Robert continued. "She's been running similar operations in Colorado, Utah, and Nevada using dating apps to target victims. The FBI has been building a federal case, and they asked me to gather evidence from this wedding to complete their investigation." Amanda's face went white. She tried to run for the exit, but Marcus was blocking the main doors. "There's more," I said, pulling out financial documents Tyler had discovered in Amanda's apartment. Amanda has been systematically extorting money from her ex-fiancés using blackmail and fake evidence. She owes $40,000 in gambling debts and has been funding her addiction by destroying other people's lives. I showed bank statements proving Amanda had received thousands of dollars from Marcus, Tyler, James, Derek, and Ryan under the threat of releasing private recordings or fake evidence of wrongdoing. My parents, who had been silent throughout this revelation, finally spoke up. My mother's voice was barely a whisper. "Amanda, is this true?" Amanda broke down completely. Faced with overwhelming evidence, federal investigation, and the stares of everyone she'd tried to manipulate, she couldn't maintain her facade any longer. "You don't understand," she sobbed. "Everyone else gets to be happy. Everyone else finds love and success and family support. I've been engaged 5 times, and every relationship falls apart. I thought if I could control other people's relationships, maybe I could figure out why mine never work." "So you decided to destroy everyone else's happiness?" asked Sarah's maid of honor, her voice filled with disgust. "I never meant for it to go this far," Amanda continued. "It started small. I just wanted to understand why men leave me. But then I realized I could make money from the information I gathered, and the gambling debts got out of control, and I couldn't stop." Tyler held up Amanda's detailed surveillance files. "She's been tracking all of us for years. Our schedules, our private conversations, our financial information. This isn't about relationship problems. This is about systematic exploitation and abuse." As if on cue, 2 FBI agents entered the church through the side door. Robert had been wearing a wire, and they'd been listening to Amanda's confession from the parking lot. Amanda Rodriguez, one of the agents, said, "You're under arrest for wire fraud, identity theft, conspiracy, and extortion. You have the right to remain silent." As Amanda was handcuffed in her emerald bridesmaid dress in front of our entire extended family, I realized something profound. This wasn't just about stopping one person's destructive behavior. This was about protecting future victims from someone who had turned relationship manipulation into a sophisticated criminal enterprise. Derek was also arrested for conspiracy and insurance fraud related to the fake pregnancy scheme. The guests watched in stunned silence as 2 people they'd known for years were led away in handcuffs. But the most important moment came when Sarah emerged from the bathroom where she'd been hiding during the chaos. She walked straight to me, took my hands, and said loudly enough for everyone to hear, "I want to marry you today, Bradley, right now, in front of everyone who stayed to support us despite this insanity." The spontaneous applause from our wedding guests was the most beautiful sound I'd ever heard. 3 weeks later, Sarah and I sat in the federal prosecutor's office downtown, learning the full scope of Amanda's criminal activities. What we'd discovered on our wedding day was just the beginning of a much larger operation. Your sister has been running this scheme in 4 different states. Assistant U.S. Attorney Patricia Williams explained, spreading files across her conference table. She uses dating apps to identify emotionally vulnerable men, builds relationships specifically to gather compromising information, then breaks up with them while extracting money through blackmail. The evidence was staggering. Amanda had targeted 37 different men over the past 3 years, collecting over $80,000 through fake emergencies, fabricated medical bills, and threats to release private recordings. She'd ruined marriages, destroyed careers, and caused several men to require psychiatric treatment for trauma. Robert's cooperation has been invaluable, the prosecutor continued. He's provided documentation of every fake video-altered photo and fraudulent document Amanda requested. He initially thought he was helping someone with legitimate relationship problems, but when he realized the scope of her operation, he contacted us. Robert sat across from us, looking exhausted but relieved. She approached me 2 years ago, claiming her ex-boyfriend was stalking her, and she needed help creating fake evidence for a restraining order. I created one altered photo to help what I thought was a domestic violence situation, but then she kept asking for more help with increasingly complex schemes. "What made you realize something was wrong?" Sarah asked. "When she asked me to fake medical records for a pregnancy that could send someone to prison for fraud," Robert replied. "I started researching her background and found news articles about several of her ex-fiancés facing legal troubles after their breakups. Men losing jobs, custody battles, criminal charges that mysteriously appeared after they ended relationships with Amanda. The prosecutor showed us newspaper clippings from Colorado and Utah. 3 of Amanda's ex-fiancés had been arrested on charges that were later dropped when evidence proved to be fabricated. But the damage to their reputations and careers was permanent. One man lost his teaching position after Amanda created fake evidence of inappropriate conduct with students, the prosecutor explained. Another had his medical license suspended pending investigation into fake complaints Amanda filed with the state board. These men's lives were destroyed even after the charges were proven false. I thought about Marcus, Tyler, James, Derek, and Ryan. My sister's local victims had been fortunate compared to what happened to men in other states who didn't have family support to help them fight back. "What's Amanda's sentence looking like?" I asked. "With federal charges across multiple states, she's facing 8 to 12 years in prison," the prosecutor replied. "She's agreed to plead guilty in exchange for cooperating with ongoing investigations into similar romance fraud operations." Sarah squeezed my hand. Over the past 3 weeks, we'd learned that Amanda's activities had affected dozens of families beyond just her romantic victims. She'd been selling personal information about her targets to identity theft rings, using their financial data to open fraudulent credit accounts, and even targeting their family members for secondary schemes. Derek's cooperation has also been valuable, the prosecutor continued. He's helping us understand how Amanda recruited accomplices for her operations. She convinced several other men that they were helping rescue women from bad relationships when they were actually participating in harassment campaigns. Derek was facing lighter charges in exchange for his testimony, but his involvement in the fake pregnancy scheme would still result in significant legal consequences and financial restitution. "There's something else," Robert said, pulling out additional files. Amanda kept detailed psychological profiles on all her targets. She was studying what made people vulnerable to manipulation and refining her techniques based on what worked. He showed us notebooks filled with Amanda's handwritten analysis of different personality types, emotional triggers, and psychological weaknesses. She'd been treating relationship destruction like a science experiment, constantly improving her methods for causing maximum emotional and financial damage. She was planning to write a book, Robert continued. A guide for women on how to extract money from men during breakups. She saw her criminal activities as research for a legitimate business opportunity. The depth of Amanda's delusion was staggering. She genuinely believed she was providing a service by showing people how to manipulate and exploit romantic relationships for profit. But the most encouraging development was the response from Amanda's victims. Marcus had started a support group for men who'd experienced manipulation and blackmail in romantic relationships. Tyler was working with legal aid organizations to help victims of romance fraud navigate the criminal justice system. Even Derek, despite his own legal troubles, was speaking with other men who'd been recruited as accomplices in similar schemes. "What about the money Amanda stole?" Sarah asked. "We've frozen her assets and are working on restitution for all identified victims," the prosecutor explained. "She'll be required to pay back every dollar she extorted, plus interest and penalties. Her gambling accounts have been closed, and we're working with the casinos to trace where the money went." The financial investigation had revealed that Amanda's gambling addiction was more severe than anyone realized. She'd been betting on everything from sports games to stock market fluctuations, always convinced that one big win would solve all her problems and allow her to stop the criminal schemes. "There's one more thing," the prosecutor said, pulling out a final folder. "Amanda's psychological evaluation suggests she has antisocial personality disorder with narcissistic features. The court-ordered therapy will be part of her sentence, but her cooperation with our investigation shows some capacity for recognizing the harm she's caused." As we left the federal building, Sarah and I walked hand in hand through downtown processing everything we'd learned. Amanda would spend the next decade in federal prison, but her victims were beginning the long process of rebuilding their lives and relationships. "Do you think she'll actually change?" Sarah asked. I thought about my sister sitting in a federal detention center, finally forced to confront the consequences of her actions. "I think she'll have plenty of time to figure out why her relationships really failed," I said. "And maybe eventually she'll understand that love isn't something you can fake or manipulate. It's something you have to earn through honesty and genuine care for another person's well-being." The irony wasn't lost on me that Amanda, who had spent years destroying other people's relationships, had never experienced a real one herself. Her engagements had all been performances, carefully constructed facades designed to gather information and extract resources, rather than build genuine emotional connections. But as Sarah and I planned our actual wedding ceremony for the following month, I realized Amanda had inadvertently given us something valuable. By forcing us to defend our relationship against sophisticated manipulation, she'd shown us how strong our foundation really was. We'd survived the worst kind of betrayal and emerged more committed to each other than ever. Sometimes the greatest gift someone can give you is showing you exactly what love isn't, so you can better appreciate what love actually is. 6 months after Amanda's sentencing, Sarah and I stood in the same church where her schemes had unraveled, but this time, the atmosphere was completely different. Sunlight streamed through stained glass windows onto 25 guests who genuinely wanted to celebrate our marriage rather than witness manufactured drama. The ceremony was everything our first attempt should have been: peaceful, intimate, and filled with authentic joy rather than theatrical manipulation. Sarah looked radiant in a simple white dress we'd chosen together, and I felt completely confident in our decision to commit our lives to each other. Marcus served as my best man, a choice that would have seemed impossible a year ago, but now felt perfectly right. Tyler and James attended with their new partners, men they'd met through the support group Marcus had started for manipulation survivors. Even Robert came bringing his girlfriend and expressing genuine happiness for our new beginning. The reception was held in my parents' backyard, with homemade food and decorations created by family members who wanted to contribute something meaningful to our celebration. No professional photographers, no elaborate floral arrangements, no opportunities for anyone to stage dramatic announcements or emotional manipulation. "It's perfect," Sarah whispered, as we shared our first dance to music playing from a simple Bluetooth speaker. "This is what a wedding should feel like." I agreed completely. After experiencing Amanda's manufactured crisis, we both valued authenticity above everything else. Our marriage was built on genuine compatibility, shared values, and mutual respect, rather than romantic fantasy or social expectations. During dinner, my father stood up to give a toast. His voice was steady, but I could see the emotion in his eyes as he spoke about family forgiveness and the importance of protecting the people we love from harm. "Bradley and Sarah have shown us something important about love," he said, raising his glass. "Real love doesn't require perfection or manipulation or control. It requires honesty, courage, and the willingness to defend each other against anyone who tries to tear you down." The toast was met with sincere applause from people who understood exactly what we'd overcome to reach this moment. Later, as guests shared stories and laughter in the warm evening air, my mother approached Sarah and me with tears in her eyes. "I owe you both an apology," she said quietly. "I enabled Amanda's behavior for years because I thought supporting her meant believing everything she told me. I should have asked harder questions and protected the rest of you from her manipulation." My parents had spent months in therapy, learning to recognize enabling behaviors and establish healthy boundaries. They'd been devastated to realize how their unconditional support had allowed Amanda to harm so many people. But they were committed to breaking the patterns that had made her schemes possible. "Amanda's actions weren't your fault," I told them. "She's a master manipulator who fooled a lot of intelligent people. The important thing is that we all learned to recognize the warning signs and protect ourselves and each other going forward." The conversation was interrupted by a call from Tyler, who was unable to attend due to a work commitment. He was calling to share news about Amanda's progress in federal prison. "She's been participating in the therapy programs," he reported. "The prison psychologist says she's beginning to understand how her gambling addiction and need for control drove her to hurt people. She asked me to tell you that she's genuinely sorry for what she did to your wedding and your relationship." I wasn't ready to forgive Amanda yet, but I was glad to hear she was getting professional help. Her crimes had been serious enough to require significant consequences, but I hoped she would eventually develop the capacity for genuine relationships based on honesty rather than manipulation. "Has she contacted any of her other victims?" Sarah asked. "She's written apology letters to everyone, but the prison counselor is reviewing them before they're sent. They want to make sure her remorse is genuine and not another attempt to manipulate people's emotions for her own benefit." The news reminded me how long it would take for Amanda's victims to fully recover from her schemes. Some of her ex-fiancés were still rebuilding their credit after identity theft. Others were working through trust issues that affected their ability to form new relationships. The psychological damage Amanda had caused would take years to fully heal. But there were also positive developments. Marcus had met someone through his support group and was planning his own wedding for next spring. James had started dating a fellow veterinarian who understood his experience with emotional abuse. Even Derek, despite his legal troubles, was working with a therapist to understand how he'd been manipulated into participating in Amanda's schemes. As the evening wound down and our guests began to leave, Sarah and I sat on the back porch steps, still wearing our wedding clothes, watching the stars appear in the darkening sky. "What do you think our marriage will look like in 10 years? She asked, leaning against my shoulder. "Probably a lot more boring than the average person would expect," I replied, smiling. "No dramatic revelations or manufactured crises, just two people who choose to keep choosing each other every day." "That sounds perfect to me," Sarah said. Looking back on everything we'd experienced, I realized Amanda had inadvertently taught us the most valuable lesson about marriage: that real love isn't about grand gestures or emotional intensity. It's about consistency, honesty, and the quiet decision to prioritize your partner's well-being over your own ego or fears. Amanda had spent years trying to control other people's relationships because she was terrified of the vulnerability that real intimacy requires. She'd chosen manipulation over authenticity because authentic relationships require accepting that you can't control how other people feel about you. You can only control how honestly you show up and how consistently you treat the people you claim to love. As Sarah and I planned our future together, we made a commitment to choose authenticity over perfection, communication over control, and genuine partnership over romantic fantasy. We'd survived the worst kind of family betrayal and discovered that our relationship was strong enough to withstand whatever challenges might come our way. The experience had taught us to trust our instincts about people's behavior, set firm boundaries with family members who tried to create drama, and prioritize our own relationship over other people's expectations or demands. 6 months later, as I write this story, Amanda is scheduled for release in 8 years. She'll face ongoing probation and restitution requirements, but she'll have the opportunity to rebuild her life based on honesty rather than manipulation. I hope she takes advantage of that opportunity. Meanwhile, Sarah and I are building the kind of marriage we actually want, one based on mutual respect, genuine compatibility, and shared commitment to each other's happiness and growth. No fake drama, no manufactured crises, no need to prove our love through surviving artificial tests. Sometimes the most radical thing you can do is choose peace, authenticity, and genuine partnership over the emotional chaos that some people mistake for passion. Have you ever experienced manipulation from someone you trusted? And how did it change your approach to relationships? I'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If this story resonated with you, please consider giving it a like, subscribing to hear more stories about overcoming family challenges, and sharing it with someone who might benefit from understanding the warning signs of emotional manipulation. Thank you for taking this journey with me. I hope Sarah's and my experience helps you recognize the difference between authentic love and sophisticated manipulation in your own relationships. Remember, real love never requires you to sacrifice your peace, your values, or your well-being for someone else's emotional needs or financial gain. Wishing you all relationships built on honesty, respect, and genuine care for each other's happiness.